This is a basic intro video to complementary and supplementary angles. If you're looking for more complex problems, look for another video I have that gets into this with some variables, all right? So complementary angles are angles whose sum is 90 degrees, meaning they're gonna add up to give you 90 degrees. So it could be two angles that add up to 90 degrees, like 50 and 40, or it could be more than two angles. And when you add all three of them or four of them up, you get 90. Those would be considered complementary angles. Supplementary angles are angles whose sum is 180 degrees. So when you add two angles up and you get 180, that means that those two angles were supplementary. And it can also be more than two angles, all right? So when you're dealing with complementary and supplementary angle problems, a lot of the times those words aren't going to be used. You're just going to have to know that angles are complementary or supplementary. So how will you know? Well, if you see this little box in the corner of an angle, that indicates a 90-degree angle. So that means that any angles that make up that angle are complementary, because when I add these up, I get the bigger angle of 90 degrees, all right? So this problem doesn't say here's two complementary angles, but this little box in the corner of the angle indicates that the two angles split up here to make the bigger 90-degree angle are complementary. Same thing over here. Nothing about this scenario says that these angles are supplementary, but the way that I know is because these two angles here, the 140 and the X, together, they make a straight line, and every straight line is 180 degrees. So anytime you have a straight line, if it's split up into different angles, those angles are supplementary because together they're gonna make 180. All right, so let's delve into these problems. If you were asked to find X in this problem, first we have to ask ourselves, okay, what's the relationship between these angles? So like we just said, they make a straight line together, right? So that means that when I add these up together, I'm gonna get 180 because they're supplementary. So I can set up a little equation for myself showing that X plus 140 is equal to 180, right? These two angles when added up together equal to 180 degrees. And I just have a little one-step equation to solve. So if I'm trying to figure out what X is, I can just subtract 140 from both sides, and that will tell me that in this case, X is equal to 40 degrees, right? And you always want to make sure your answer is reasonable. When I look at this picture, even though it's not drawn to scale, I can see that this angle is acute, so I want to make sure that my answer is something less than 90 degrees at least. All right, now the example on the right, if I wanted to find the measure of this angle X, now I look at these angles and I try to figure out what's their relationship. I see the box here. I know that indicates 90 degrees. So these two are complementary angles. Together, they give me 90 degrees. So together in math means addition. X plus 20. Together, when I add those up, I should get 90 degrees. So if I'm solving for X, all I have to do is subtract 20 on both sides. So minus 20 minus 20, and I'm going to bring it over here because I don't have space. X is equal to 70. So this angle is 70 degrees, all right? You could check that really quickly. 70 degrees plus 20 degrees gives me that 90-degree angle. All right, before I say it, take a second and see if you could figure out what the relationship is between this 63-degree angle and this angle with the value of X. Did you say complementary? Because if you did, you'd be correct. I tried to trick you with this straight line because a straight line is 180 degrees. But if you notice, the two angles you're given in green, those don't make up the straight line together, right? Those only make up half of the straight line. So this 90-degree angle on my left tells me that these two together must equal 90 degrees, right? So the whole line is 180. This backwards L is 90. So that means that these two are left to make the other 90 together. So these two angles are complementary. So if I was trying to figure out the value of X, I would set up my equation, 63 plus X equals 90, okay? If you were gonna try to add it up to equal 180, you would have to also add that other 90. So 63 plus X plus 90 equals 180, all right? But that's a little bit of a waste because I can do it in a shorter amount of time here. So now just like before, we're subtracting 63 on both sides so that we can get X on its own, and we get X equals 27. So this smaller angle here is 27 degrees. All right, one more problem. How are we gonna find the value of X in this diagram? So I do have a straight line. We do know that a straight line is 180 degrees, but this straight line, unlike the other one we dealt with, is split up into 1, 2, 3 different angles. So when I go to set up my equation, it's gonna be 45 plus X plus 50 equals 180, right? So it takes all three of these to make that line. So all three of them need to be added up to give me that 180. They are all supplementary. All right, now I'm going to combine these like terms that I see, the 50 and 45. So now I have 95 plus x is equal to 180. We're just solving a one-step equation here, so we're going to subtract 95 from both sides to give us that x by itself. So we get x equals 85. So this angle in the middle here is 85 degrees. And do a quick check for yourself. 45 plus 85 plus 50 should give me that 180, since all three of those were supplementary angles. All right, here is a practice problem for you guys, so go ahead and give it a try. And when you think you have the right answer, check the video description. The answer will be there for you. So if you got it right, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and let me know.